Well, hi everybody. David, George, Brooke, that gratitude guy, out to see you again today with my good friend Suzanne Taylor King, aka the Entrepreneur's Secret Weapons. We are here to discuss yet another topic. Suzanne, how are you?
I'm awesome.
Awesome. That's a good word. So
Yeah.
today's topic that will be awesome for, and you can be awesome, I'll be amazing, maybe
All
with
right.
a couple of A's. Assemble a dream team to drive your business. And I have some very specific thoughts about this, but let's do ladies first and start with you. Assemble a dream team to drive your business. What say you?
I say first, figure out the 5 to 10 people you're going to hang out with
Hmm.
before before you pay anybody or do any of that. It's really, really important who you're sharing ideas and rants and excitement and laughs with about your business because I think that's I don't know. I think it's the secret sauce to really not only business growth, but personal growth as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you remember we were talking offline, and I was saying this, that you've heard it a million times, so I'll say it a million and one, play with a veteran tennis player. But I
Hmm.
think it's interesting. Always find somebody who's better than you are at a certain skill or technique,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, and then surround yourself with those kind of people. And I
Hmm.
know years ago when I was buying real estate and making a portfolio of rentals and things like that, I realized that I hadn't done it intentionally, but unintentionally, I had a guy who was a great painter. I had a guy that was a great accountant. I had a guy that was a great lawn maintenance kind of a guy and so forth. And
Hmm.
then the different guy, another guy was a roofer. And so they say that, don't do it yourself. Find somebody who's really good at what they do and then surround them and make them, in a sense, your dream team. You can't be an accountant. You can't be a roofer. You can't be all these different
Yeah.
things, but you can find the people. So I think in our world, I think about it, especially we were just talking about social media. I think just thinking about the people that do the videos, the people that do the
Hmm.
clips that we just mentioned and so forth. But
Yeah.
some of those things are really, really important to have specific knowledge in those each one of those disciplines, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I at least for me, and I do this with my clients. I think it's important all of those things because if you don't know them and you just blindly hire people, how do you know you're getting value?
Right.
Whether it's time or money or whatever. I think that's really important. At least it always has been for me. It's important for me to know how to do something before I hire somebody to do it for me.
And I think you're right. I think there's also having a cursory knowledge. I think one of the things that might be helpful to people is how, I love your thoughts on this. How do you make the transition from doing it yourself to outsourcing it and hiring a
Mm.
VA or somebody else? But you have to have the basic knowledge yourself. But how did you know when you wanted to make that transition to go from doing it in-house versus to outsourcing it?
Well, I like the example of when I had my marketing agency at the beginning of COVID. I got the lane brain idea that I was going to start a marketing agency that did like funnels and websites and because my clients always needed those things and I thought, okay, well, I can start that, have a team, they'll and it was a lot of work. But I knew how to do everything.
Right.
And I was almost too hands-on with it. And basically, I knew that the amount I was spending on a team to do those things was not really what I wanted to do. Like I kind of became a project manager of sorts because it wasn't pay somebody and hand it off. It was because it was my company, I was too involved. So I think for me, after that, after I sold that company and I kind of said, I'm going to partner with an agency, and that's what I do now.
Mhm.
So by partnering, um, he's my exclusive partner. I refer all business to him if it's website, funnel, automations, that kind of stuff. And he knows how my brain works and I'm not hands on anymore. It's just kind of like, oh, let me introduce you to my guy.
Right.
I got a guy. I got a guy. And that's freedom. So when I look at the difference between those two, it was being really clear that what I really wanted when I started my agency was a partner. But what I got was creating more work for myself.
Yeah.
So learning that lesson when I was exploring that the second time, it was make sure you interview this person. And it's not me starting another business. Dude, I'm referring this business to you, and I need to know that my brain is going to translate to you of what I want for my clients.
And I think I really feel that a big portion of this is energy. When you're
Mhm.
selecting these dream team people, how do you know?
Mhm.
I've always believed in energy, but I had something come up the other day that I don't think I even mentioned to you this offline, but I was in this group with meditation and mudras and so forth. And then I mentioned that I had this back problem. And they said, well, we're going to do some Reiki and some energy work for you and can help you out. Well, I'm looking at my computer and they're all thousands of miles away. Well, how's this going to work? I mean, how's the
Mhm.
energy thing working? And and it helped. And so it was maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I was very appreciative more than anything else.
Mhm.
But and this is what I don't think I told you, but it didn't occur to me till the next day or so. And I thought, well, wait a second, Dave.
Mhm.
You believe in this energy, and I think I do now. And the reason I do is because why is it any different than when you're picking somebody for a dream team or somebody? Well, my friend
Yeah.
STK, my friend DGB said, I want to talk to you. Why is it any difference when the Zoom thing pops in, click, and then the audio comes on, the visual comes on? In 30 seconds, you know whether you like them or not. And
Mhm.
now it's just a question of filling in the blanks if they're going to be able to do the
Yeah.
job and they can do the skills that are needed and charge you the money that's appropriate and so forth. But I thought, that's such a good example of energy because there's been ones
Mhm.
that, I mean, we've joked about this before where in the first 30 seconds, and I just go,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work. So I think that same energy is true probably when you're picking those dream team people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think um I met my agency partner through someone else. He's like, "Oh, I know this guy." And he's based in New York, so it's same time zone as me. So I'm not dealing with, the Philippines, which I have somebody there, 16 hours difference, or my personal assistant's in India. So that's 12 and a half hours difference. So that kind of makes things difficult. Um, Somebody in my time zone? Wow. Okay. And it was immediate connection.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? What did they say? Do you remember that made you feel that immediate connection?
He understood what I wanted.
Mm,
He understood. And I have a tendency to, not that I'm not a good communicator, but when I say, I have three funnel packages, they're this, this, and this, he knew immediately. Like I didn't have to send him the printout. I didn't have to go into minute detail, which I'm not good at. He took over the details.
yeah.
So I just referred him somebody for everything, which is like a $3,500 package. And it's website and funnel and CRM setup, sales pipeline, all these things.
Nice.
And the client of mine called me and said, I just got the proposal. I'm looking at this list of things he's going to do. I have some questions. I said, I designed the list. It's exactly like, and I didn't even look at it because I knew I designed the list. It's my list of things for you. I have three different packages with him, and I'm totally confident that that's what you need. And the client said, okay, done,
Yeah.
sending him a check. And so it's that level of he knows me, knows what I do, and there's a trust there. So much so he asked me business advice last week,
Oh, nice.
and he was like, wow, that was super helpful. Thank you so much.
Well, it's so interesting too. Another bit of advice I heard years ago is find somebody that's getting the results that you want to get and then do what they do, which
Hmm.
makes sense. And the thing I always
Yeah.
talk about is that if you want to learn how to ride a bike or something, you ask Lance Armstrong, you don't ask the neighbor
Hmm.
kid. And yet there's people
Yeah.
at the time that you'll say, here's some thoughts I have for you. And you tell them, and they go, well, my next door neighbor says that. Who's your
Hmm.
next door neighbor? What do they know? Why are you telling me what they're saying? And so,
Yeah.
but I think that in the case of offloading it and VAs and virtual assistants and just the different things, it's interesting how, yes, you can find somebody that's doing what they do and do what they do, but if you offload it, you can then put more your time into more important
Yeah.
things, content creation and actual, in my case, is speaking and teaching and coaching, and the same with you. And that's where you're getting the highest and best use of your time, which is
Yeah.
so important, and not doing those. And then I will add one caveat that is interesting. I had a VA that I changed, that they changed some of the structure and so forth. So I went a different direction. But I actually found in some of this stuff, just in my normal workday, I took back some of the postings and things that I was having that person do, that I
Hmm.
actually kind of like doing it. It's just a little change
Mm.
up for my day. It's kind of enjoyable. And then, oh, look how well that one did. Look, and you and I have talked about this offline too. Oh, look how many views, look how many subscribers are popping up on this. Look how many
Yeah.
likes I got. And it's kind of, oh man, that one really took off. And especially like on something in TikTok where it takes off in like about 5 seconds or 5 minutes.
Hmm.
But so there's other things. And then I think sometimes too, for a variety of things to do, there's certain accounting things that I've always just enjoyed doing myself. I just want to see the spreadsheet. I want to see the
Hmm.
list of things and see what the percentages are to sales or whatever it might be. So I think trying to understand what your strengths are, I'm fond of saying, make your strengths productive, make your weaknesses irrelevant. So don't worry about what you're weak at. Get somebody and hire somebody to do that, but do the things that you enjoy and your strengths, and you'll become even more productive. So it's a good
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. And what that brings to mind is you have to know yourself. And a couple of years ago, I really dove into knowing my leadership style, knowing my work style, what was my brain good at, what was I good at, why was I successful with, certain things and not others, and really exploring and trying to learn. And one of the things that came out of that was kind of like a Godsmack moment where I had taken 7 different assessments on myself from, all different Colby, strengths, disc, all of them, and then some wacky, different personality ones. And the information that came back got compiled into a report for me. And out of all of my strengths, looking at them, I had none in the execution
Oh, wow.
area.
Wow.
So very visionary, very idea focused, and very motivational, inspirational. Super high in all of those areas. But execution did not make the list for like until strength number like 47
Wow.
had a little something with
Well, isn't that
execution.
kind of right brain, left brain? You're very right
Mhm.
brain creative, the person that comes up with everything. Now I always think of the left brain as the accountants. They count the beans and they do that, but they're not
Yeah,
the ones that have any creation to them at all. So,
right.
but that's really neat, which is what, as I've watched you, that's what you've really played to is your strength.
Yeah. Well, and then the character strengths piece, the personality strengths of being outgoing, not minding being on camera or in front of the room. Maybe I'm kind of funny sometimes. I have great facial expressions. Like you can't hide
I,
my reaction to stuff. I know that.
I'll second
And
that.
I've tried to filter the no, and I can't. So knowing all of those things allowed me to finally interview an assistant who was going to be the opposite. And we've been together almost a year. And when I tell you, he actually messages me every morning and says, there's nothing on my list for today. What are you doing? and I think, oh my God, he's telling me I need to do something. Like he's making me do it.
Mhm.
And I love that because he's the opposite of me. So
Yeah,
I encourage him to make videos and get out there for his business. He's working on an offer sheet today
nice.
for me. And so he gave me work to do this morning. And it that's amazing to me because in the past I tried to hire people, and because I didn't create a itemized SOP, I'm not good at that.
Right.
I need you to do it.
Yeah.
And the assistants would look at me like, what do you mean? I can't create an SOP about your podcast, for
Right.
example. I'm
Right.
like, well, okay, then never mind.
Forget it.
Yeah.
What do you think is your, because I know my answer to this, but I'm going to ask you first. What is your highest and best use of your time? What's the one that I use 1 to 10 on the gratitude
Mhm.
journal every single day, but what's the one that guarantees you to get yourself a solid 10 for the day?
Having a conversation with somebody new.
Oh, nice. Nice. Like you had today.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for
Hmm.
me, it's walking off a stage
Mm.
when I can see when you make eye contact. And it's nice to do the visual thing
Yeah.
and the virtual
Yeah.
and all that, but there's nothing like the eye contact and watching the people that look at you and just smile and keep nodding their heads, and then their eyes go wide sometimes, and they have another smile. Sometimes they do the thumbs up or high five or something like that.
Hmm.
But boy, I can't, it just doesn't get any better. And I think it's so important for the viewers and listeners to think about what is that highest and best use of your time. And if
Hmm.
you're out there, as I always say, organizing paper clips, you got to rethink what you're doing. What is the best use of your time? And so important. So, well, I think we'll wrap up this whole concept of the dream team. I think is so important because again, knowing your strengths and then building around it. I'm going to say that again, make your
Yeah.
strengths productive, make your weaknesses irrelevant. I see people that are trying to, in fact, I've said it in talks before that I can speak to 10,000 soldiers, but I can't draw a circle to save my life. So I'm not going to take an art class. It just doesn't make sense to me. Well,
Yeah.
I can't be good at everything, and I don't even want to be trying to be drawing a circle. So, but any final thoughts for the dream team and building that and who you surround yourself?
Well, I think if you're a coach or a solopreneur type
Mhm.
person, that until you're making the money that you want, don't think about being extravagant with who you hire. You
Mm,
know, I always say if you're just starting out, meet other people that you can barter services with.
good
And
idea.
that's frowned upon in a lot of circles because you're not going to make money.
Right.
And I get it. But if you're only making 500 or $1,000 a month, and my assistant would cost you that.
Right.
So he would not be the person for you to hire when you're at that income level. So to me, that's the smartest business decision is if you're a coach and you need copy, coach a copy person and
Right.
do an exchange.
Right.
And it needs to be value for value.
Yeah.
Um, I've exchanged programs with many people who I wanted their program, they wanted my program, and let's just pretend we paid each other $10,000 and treat it seriously.
Yeah.
And that can be magical when you find those people.
Good point. Well said. And I think I would just add, just to come back again, back to the energy piece, is that think about who
Mm.
you're hanging out with. And I noticed one of the things when I was raising my children, particularly my younger son, but both of them really, I was so aware of who they were hanging out with. And
Mhm.
people would say, well, what's a good parenting tip? And I said, pay attention to who your kids are hanging out with. So the same thing is true when you're hiring a dream team. Think about who those people are. Do you have good energy? When they come on the Zoom call, do you get excited to talk to them, or do you roll your eyes like this can be a long 30 minutes? And
Yeah,
select the best people you can, and it'll probably make a
yeah,
difference. So anyway, well,
yeah.
thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another edition of Suzanne Taylor King and David George Brooke. Take care.